Welcome back everyone. A lot has been happening with the Doblo, but unfortunately because of the weather here, it has been storm after storm, flooding after flooding, snow after snow, gale force winds. I'm not entirely sure if you can actually still hear me just now. Things have been going on with the Doblo. So far I've taken the front wheels off here. I've got them in the workshop. I've just kind of wire wheeled them down, freshened them up with paint. It does look like I will need to get discs and pads for here. I've already taken the turbo out once. I've had a look at that, and it looked like the wastegate actuator had actually seized on it. So I've replaced that. I've put it back in. We still had issues with it running nicely. I then discovered that the oil pickup feed to the turbo from the engine itself, that didn't have a gasket on it, so that's now leaking. So I do have gasket material that I've got. I'll need to make up a new gasket, so I need to take the turbo back off again, make up that gasket and put it in. As things have turned out as well, the reverse switch was stuck closed, so that meant that the reverse lights were on all the time. The switch has now been changed for that, so the reverse lights don't come on unless you go into reverse. It also had a coolant temperature sensor issue as well. The sensor was reading just all over the place. So I've also replaced the coolant temperature sensor in there as well. We dug down a wee bit further into the exhaust. From the intro video you would have seen that there basically was no exhaust. So I have managed to source one, but because this model does not have the DPF, it seems like that's a very difficult centre pipe to get for this model. Certainly for the suppliers I was using were struggling to be able to get it. So that's then forced me to have to make up a replacement centre pipe for it. So I have welded that together. I've got that ready. In fact, let me go and grab it. And here it is here. This is the makeshift centre pipe that I've got. So the non-DPF version is still in there with the back box connected. It's under the van just now. That allowed me to get the measurements for that. Welded in a new flexi pipe for it. This section of pipe here actually came off of my Mark 7 Transit. I had that spare, and then I fabricated on a new hanger for this as well. So that should be all good, but before I can install this, I need to replace the oil sump. So I need to replace the oil sump. It is rusted, it is damaged, so instead of just trying to wire wheel it down, I might as well. It was cheap enough to replace it, to buy a new oil sump for it, so we'll just replace that at the same time. But that's the reason why I can't install this exhaust yet, because I need to get the catalytic converter out, so I've got room to be able to drop the sump and then put the new sump in. Everything on the back doors has now been fixed. It's got its rear tail lights put in, the handle works fine, the door locks. I have readjusted the hinges on it so everything shuts properly now, instead of when I was towing it, the back doors actually opened up and I hadn't realised it on my way back, but we've got it done. Also took the headlights out, mainly because I was bored and the weather was terrible. I took the headlights out quickly, gave them a quick polish. I think they've came up alright, to be honest. So what we're going to do now, well really before I go any further, what I want to do is I want to get this engine running, I want to get it warmer, and I want to put in an engine flush. Here's a parts box. Now inside of the parts box here, there's all sorts of goodies inside of here. I've got a new breather, Crankcase Breather pipe here as well. I've got replacement engine mount that I needed as well, because the lower rear support is not supporting. We've got paint just to tidy it up. We've got oil filters, fuel filter. We've got the oil sump, various clamps as well for the exhaust. We've got all of that, but I want to do the engine flush. But in order for me to do this, I need to get the car warmed up. I need to get it hot, put this in, let it do its thing for 20 minutes, and then drain all that oil out. That's what we're going to do now. Oh, before I forget, we also found that there was various wiring in the passenger side for the blower heater motor that had been replaced with an Amazon, like a cheap Amazon resistor. Now the motor still worked, it was just the resistor that was faulty. It turned out that it wasn't actually the correct one for the car, so what they did is they bolted the heating resistor on the outside of the blower motor, so there was no cold air going across it to keep it cool. Now the motor resistor does get very warm. It effectively just cooked itself and melted, so got a new one of them, managed to fit that. The connector had already been chopped off, so that was fun trying to reconnect all those wires, but that's that done. Then, after it was fixed, it turned out that the actual switch inside of the dash to turn the motor through its different modes, it was actually burnt out, so there was a ground wire running basically up at the switch that had melted as well. So replaced that, not the switch but just the wiring. So fixed up the wiring at the back there, connected that, and our heater motor is working again. So in theory we should have heat. Anyway, back to the oil. Right, let's start the ball rolling with this. Oh, I forgot to mention as well, I've actually cleaned out the inside of it, so I've cleaned the carpet and that already. Took the seats out, gave them a wee clean. So we'll just get this started. It's actually been sitting a wee while, I've not had the battery on charge. Fingers crossed though. Oh, it's so weak. So weak. I don't know if you can hear that as well, but with the exhaust being basically hanging off this thing, just sounds nasty. Very smoky as well, just from that tailpipe. Very smoky. Now I do have the airbox actually disconnected in it right now, so that might actually mess around with things because the MAF's not connected. Right, we'll just let that run, try and get it to heat up a little bit, and we'll shove the engine flush into it, let it do its thing, empty that out. Once that's done, then I can start stripping out the turbo and I can take all that oil sump off, but we'll just, hopefully it'll heat up. It is cold out here, so I'm not very hopeful, but we'll see. Right, we're as close to warm as I'm going to get it in this weather. Without actually driving it, it's not going to get any hotter, so we'll turn it off and then we'll stick the engine flush inside. So we'll stick the engine flush inside of it. So according to the instructions, basically get it warm, dump the bottle here into the oil, then run it at a high idle for 15 minutes. So that's what we're going to do. Now I've not used this stuff before, so I don't know if it's any good, but we'll basically just gently push that into there. Try not to spill it everywhere. There we go. Put our cap back on. We'll start her back up and put her on a high idle. Maybe try and get her run about 1500. So we just need to do this now for another 15 minutes. Great. Fun fact, engine lights came on. But I think that's because the MAF sensor is disconnected. So with the MAF being disconnected, the engine warm. That's why it's throwing this code. But I'll be back with you in just a moment. So, seconds for you, 15 minutes for me. So, let's get this drained. There also seems to be a bit of a coolant leak happening as well. So that's lovely. I got the wrong socket. Let's see if this is the right one now. I just got coolant dripped on me. Now, thankfully, that came off quite easily. What's the chances of me getting this off without actually... There we go. Right. We'll see how that does. Oh no, the wind. Oh no. The wind's catching it. Oh, it's everywhere. Definitely seems to be a coolant leak. Seems like it's on this side, but it's dripping down here on the side of the gearbox. So I'll need to try and track that down. But we'll stick our plug back in. I'm not needing to tighten that like right the way up because it's gonna end up coming off, but I really just wanted to just try and stop water from getting in there. Right. Ugh. Tools. Oil changes. Ugh. It's obviously very thin, but that will be because of the chemical that I put in it to try and clean it. Now if I was Derek from Vice Grip Garage, then I would probably lick this, but no, it's not how I roll. Anyway, I'll get that decanted into my container, my bucket for used oil, and then I'll tidy up this mess that's under there. As you can probably tell, I'm covered in oil, and that's because the wind, where I'm parked is like a wind tunnel, it just comes right through, basically. That's that drained. Now, rain is about to start again, but because that oil is out now, I can remove that crankcase breather, I can remove the turbo and the cat again, make up the new gasket for it. I do need to investigate though where this coolant leak is coming from. Certainly it seemed to be dripping down the right hand side of the gearbox there. I don't think there's coolant that should be there. So maybe it's a hose that's disconnected. You know, maybe I've not tightened up a cable tie or something like that. A cable tie? A hose clamp? Something like that. Anyway. Right, I'm going to call it quits for just now. That's that done. I'll bring you back as soon as it brightens up or dries up a little bit. Right, new day. It's nice and sunny. It is still freezing though. I have put the big jacket on because it's just too cold. What I want to do though is get this battery out of the way, get out the tray, because I found the leak for the coolant and it's from that new sensor that I put in. So, not any good. So we'll just disconnect this battery. And we need a 10mm for the positive side. Oh, I had it right the first time. There we go. Right, that's that out of the way. Now I just want to get rid of this tray as well. So there's 3 bolts holding this top tray in. I'll just get that out. Seems close enough. Right, so just need to get these tabs off. Little tabs for the wire, basically. Get them out of the way. Try and make sure I don't lose that bolt. Another one there. Oh, just lift that out. Right, so that gives us a little bit better access down in behind here to get that coolant sensor. There's a pipe there that's going to be in my road. A few pipes are going to be in my road. I think what I might do is I might actually just disconnect this unit and just pull that out of the way as well. Right, get that up. Ta-da! Got that bolt back in, that nut, so I don't lose it. A wee bit more space. Just get them out of the way so we don't damage them. Right. What's next? Let's get the cat dropped and the turbo. Okay, so I need to disconnect this oil line. Gravity. What did that come out of? Oh, no, can't remember. We'll get it later. Get the magnet to lift that out. There we go. So there's something called a banjo bolt. It's got a hole basically in the middle, and that's what allows oil to get through. So we've got that off. Now there is a copper washer top and bottom of that pipe. I think it's still stuck on the bottom of it. I've got replacements anyway. Right, so the next thing I want to do now is disconnect the pipe at the bottom. Disconnect this one here, which you can't see. There we go. so we've got that. We've got that. Time to go under and disconnect everything else. Now it is a bit of a tight squeeze on the underside here. I'll see if I can get the camera in. Well, difficult to show, but incredibly tight fit under here. We need to remove this pipe here. Wastegate's already been changed, and I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but right in there where that oil feed pipe goes, that there is what's leaking. So that's what I need to take. This is the reason why I'm taking this out, is because I need to fit a gasket there basically. So we get those two torque bolts out. We'll get this hose clamp here disconnected, down here disconnected, and that there should allow me to undo the 3 bolts in the manifold and then drop this whole cat out. So that's basically what we need to do next. Right, that's that off. So I should now just need to take the 3 bolts off at the top here. And in theory, magnet again. So I just want to check that, make sure that there's nothing else holding that. Yeah. So that looks okay. So now it's really a case of trying to support this so it doesn't fall, basically. Let's get, I disconnected that as well. Right. Alright. Try and get that bolt. Right. And then in theory, that there should come off. Now, I've got a slight problem. My arms aren't long enough. No. And there's that other copper washer that came on the fuel line, or the oil line. Ta-da! Now I've got that off, I can find out what was going wrong with that gasket. As we can see down here, hopefully it's shown up on camera, there's the discoloration. It did have a metal gasket on it already, but again, I don't know if you can see it, but there is some sort of distortion here on this corner, which lines up with this area here. So I think our metal gasket has failed. That's what's let the oil through. Now I do have some gasket material which I can use to remake this. It's not steel though, it's just some high temperature 1mm gasket material. So I'm going to use that because that's what I've got. If I should be using a metal gasket because it's an oil line, please let me know in the comments. But hopefully it does seal up, hopefully it gets it working again. And that's it. So I'll go and make this simple as, I'm just going to cut this round or trace this round on the material, cut it out, and then that'll be us, good to go. I'll see you in a minute. Alright, gasket's been made up. I think that'll do. I think that'll be alright. So hopefully it'll stay in place when I put it on. Fingers crossed. But the next thing I want to do is to remove the crankcase breather. So we can see that oil coming down here. So this is at the back of the engine. So I'm on my back right now, underneath, and we can see all that oil dripping down. Now it's coming from back there. I don't know if you can see that black thing. So you see, just kind of in the middle of the screen, we've got that. That there's the crankcase breather, I believe. And we can see that obviously that it's full of oil. Now, I think that it is the hose is cracked or that plastic is cracked. But we can see, hopefully, that there are 4 Torx bolts. There's 2 on that flange pipe going into the engine. There's another 2 Torx bits holding the actual plastic unit up. It looks like there's a hose clamp at the top, and then there's potentially 1 more hose clamp I need to undo, but it's one of those weird ones that are kind of clamped together, so they're pressed fitted in. I'll try and give you a closer look once I get it out. But that there is effectively what I'm trying to get at. And because I don't have a ramp, and I'm approximately, I've only got the van about, oh no, 9 inches off the ground. It's really, I just cannot get in there to show you. But that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to take that off, and we'll see what's going on with it. Right, that was not fun at all. There's the crankcase breather. I ended up disconnecting it at the top of the engine to make it a little bit easier to come out because of these types of hose clamps. You basically have to like try and get this cap off and then snip it. So it's just a nightmare, and you can't really get access to it. Anyway, I have obviously got it out. Now, I'd pre-ordered this part because rumour had it that this was the bit that was more likely to crack and cause the leak, and I was thinking it was happening towards the bottom because it was running down, but on closer inspection after it's out, we can see that it has just perished. It's just perished. So it's all cracked and broken down here. It's just, you know, all the way up around there. It's all cracked. Hopefully you see that. Now the downside is the part that I ordered, it came from a breakers. So they chopped this one, they chopped that one, but this one on the new part is also cracked. So I now need to try and get some extra hose to replace this bit. So I don't think it's the breather, this plastic, that's actually damaged. I don't think so. In saying that though, if you look at the ridge at the top, it looks like it's higher on one side. So maybe this is. I don't know. I don't know. But yes, that's our problem, this hose, and that's what's causing it to leak. Great. Oh well, back to eBay. Well, I'm starting to hit roadblock after roadblock. Obviously now I need to order that pipe, so I can't fix that back end there. I don't necessarily see the point in dropping the sump right now, so I decided that I would tighten up the temperature sensor. So I did, and that happened. Now it should look like that, frustratingly. So it tightened up and basically left this part inside of the engine. So not necessarily the best thing. I did get kind of scared because obviously most of it came off but left that bit in. Thankfully though, I do have a set of the kind of bolt extractors. Thankfully I was able just to find the port and then obviously twist that back out, thankfully. But now I'm actually not too sure. After looking at it, I think actually the leak might have been because the new one, I don't think came with a washer. I don't think I had a washer on it. So I think that's maybe why it didn't seal. Either that or I've dropped it. But I don't see it. So yeah, I'm scuppered there again. It has just poured coolant everywhere, so I'll need to tidy that up. Right, well, I think that's going to be it for this episode. I'm kind of stuck now, needing to order more parts, and I can't really move on with anything until I get these extra bits. But he is making progress. We are getting there, slowly but surely. Thanks very much for watching. I'll see you on the next one. Baka.